What was it like channeling his energy and getting it to the place you wanted it to be?
When I was in the recording studio voicing Paul R. Williams, I stood up taller. I stood up taller. I mean, his journey is one that inspires. And I was able to stand up taller, and I thought about the trials and the travails and the hurdles, but the grace, with which he did everything that he did. And so, one who was a person of triumphant individual, not one who was caught up in, all the things that he had gone through. He persevered and he pushed through. So I stood up taller and I gave myself as completely as I could to his integrity and his dignity.
I love that. So, what did you think you learned about yourself voicing? I mean, you said a lot already, but what did you think you learned personally? You came away with thinking, wow, I learned this about me. What was that?
Well, I've learned that even the things that I've had to be resilient over, that it's important to hold that quality, to be willing to take the inward journey, and not be defined outside of yourself, but that sense of self-definition, knowing one's own worth, was really deeply encouraged by the fact that I was doing this work.
What would you hope that the audience will come away with when they see this fabulous documentary?
That racism is irrational, that beauty emanates from all human beings can possess beauty, and to get on the road to learn to execute your imagination.
Good. So, how do we find you and follow you on social media?
I am a person, unfortunately, not with social media as I ought to be.
Can we just Google your name and find out everything that you do?
Yes, but you can particularly go to ebonyrep.org. I'm the founder and producing artistic director of the Ebony Repertory Theater, and we're the first and only African-American equity professional theater company in the history of Los Angeles, and so particularly ebonyrep.org.
Mr. Williams is really one of the architects of this entire city, and to recognize all the things that this man had to do in order to have a career, and that he's African American. There's so many great people in our history that no one knows about. Yeah, no one knows about the incredible things that they've done, and he's one of our heroes, and people don't even know about him. One of my favorites is the restaurant at the airport. That was his. And let us not forget the Beverly Hills Hotel. Yes, yes. And he couldn't even eat there. He couldn't even eat there. Okay? Homes, Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, all these homes in Beverly Hills, not just in Beverly Hills, Pasadena, all over the city. I hope particularly for Black and brown children that they get to see and have new heroes, that there are careers other than basketball and rapping. So there are possibilities out there for them. That's what I want them to see and come away with. I'm on Facebook. So there I am, Hattie Winston. Thank you.
I'm the Chief Design Officer for the City of Los Angeles. I work in the Mayor's office. Realizing the incredible breadth of Paul Williams' work, and within residential architecture and then public buildings at large scale that he did toward the end of his career, just incredibly prolific, but always at a very high standard of quality. And it's really unusual for an architect to be able to work across that range of building types and across that range of styles for all kinds of clients, whether they were Hollywood stars or city governments or the airport at LAX, and maintaining a certain level of aspiration and quality. And there are really very few 20th century LA architects who can say the same. I learned so much thinking about this before the conversation I had with Royal. She came to City Hall to record an interview with me, and it was just a really great excuse to freshen up my knowledge of all of Paul Williams' work and a number of things. I was just telling a story up in the theater to folks sitting next to me about The famous case study House 22 by Pierre Koenig in the Hollywood Hills, which is a famous work of modernist architecture, only got built because the architect Pierre Koenig knew Paul Williams, and Paul Williams recommended that he go ask Broadway federal savings and loan for a loan, and the big banks in town didn't want to take a risk on an experimental piece of architecture. And I have to say, I only learned that in the last couple of years, and I'm still frustrated at my architectural history professors who didn't tell me that really important piece of knowledge. I probably studied that house in 3 or 4 different classes, never heard that story. And it's an important story about the intersection of race, money, politics, and power in Los Angeles. And luckily those stories, thanks to documentaries like this and projects like this, are starting to come back to the surface and get the attention that they really deserve. It is a big city. It helped that I was the architecture critic at the LA Times for about 14 years, and that was really an education in LA design and architectural history, social history, political history, and I really tried always throughout my time at the LA Times to keep being a student of the city and trying to learn as much as I could because, as your question suggests, it's a vast place with a vast history. And I think the history particularly is underappreciated. People caricature Los Angeles as a place that's only interested in the future and reinventing itself. But those layers of history we need to pay attention to as well, which is another reason documentaries like this are so important. I think continuing to make progress on the mayor's agenda for housing is number one. Housing homelessness, housing affordability is absolutely at the top of the agenda. And so I'm excited to see more progress on the affordable housing projects that we've been funding and working to design and get in construction across the city. Yes, we were just talking about traffic. Yes, the eternal topic in Los Angeles, traffic. It will never go away as a subject. On Twitter, you can find me at Hawthorne, at Hawthorne, CDOLA for Chief Design Officer LA. Instagram, at Christopher Hawthorne, just my very long name mashed together. So I encourage folks to be in touch.